remind us. Is this what? Yeah, right. Great. Yeah. Oh, well, I'd love to get more happening. We are working with Lola, and we've got an application there. And so Mark, Glasser and I are very much tagging on this. I was trying to bring that up. She just met with, she did, it was a lovely meeting. Yeah, she did. We just touched base about it, but we didn't, and so, Susan Lee spoke to me.
Good morning everybody and welcome to Can You Believe It? March's Business Before Hours. This year is absolutely flying by. I hope it's been productive for you all. I'd like to make a special welcome to Councillors Alice Blacken and Graham Doxey from Albury City. I'd also like to welcome Board Directors Barry Young and Ali Bruce, and I don't think I've missed anyone else. No, that's good. A very special welcome to our sponsors as well. We actually have presents from RSM today. Mitch and where'd Tom go? Oh, you're right next to him. Well done. Thank you guys for coming. I guess it's always a good opportunity before we kick off these meetings as well to welcome any new faces to Business Before Hours. So if you've never been to a Business Before Hours, not looking in any particular direction there, Megan, if you'd like to stand up and maybe just give us a quick couple of minutes about who you are, what you do, what makes you tick, and why you joined Chamber.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm Creative Director of creative agency in Albury called Kindred. We specialise in brand development and all things design and digital. So
awesome.
Great to be here and to meet new faces.
And how long have you been operating for?
We've been operating about 13 years in Albury. As Kindred, about 3.
Yeah.
A bit of a name change in the region.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thanks for joining Chamber. Welcome, and hopefully you'll meet some new friends today and at future events as well.
Great.
Is there anybody else who's never been to Business Before Hours? Edwina? Oh, come on.
Oh,
why not? Take the opportunity. You're going to present later anyway.
I'm Edwina Hayes. I'm the Director of Regional Development for Regional Development Australia, and it is unfortunately my first breakfast because I've been in the job about 6 months and I haven't been in Albury on a day that the Chamber's had a breakfast yet. So, which is an indication of the job. It's a job from the Snowies to the South Australian border, so there's a lot of travel involved, and I guess I'll be able to talk to you more about it in half an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
First off, our first presenter, Aisha, is going to talk to us this morning about some tips on how to network effectively and how to build rapport, which is obviously a very important thing in what we all do in business. So if you'd like to come up, Aisha. We don't do that, sorry. You request that.
For a sleep.
I'm on my own sleep.
Okay, so I'm Aisha Omar. I'm a career development consultant. This is very confusing. Every time they give it to me, it says Aisha Omar and Aisha Omar. That's because my consultancy is by my name. And I was just telling somebody I met here and was having a very interesting conversation with that since I'm the brand, I don't change my name, the consultancy's name, because people know me by my name. Okay, so today we're going to talk about communicate and connect. Now, we all communicate on a daily basis with a lot of people. But how often do we come back and we say, were we able to really connect? We do communicate, but it's not always that we're able to connect with other people. Now, before we get into it, let's have a look at what the process of communication is. We all know how it works. We know that there's a sender, there's a channel in between, an email, or if you're talking, then your words, and then there is a receiver. But what we mostly forget is that there's a feedback. For the process to complete, we need a feedback. How many times do we receive a message, a text message on our phone, on our email, on our computers, and we forget to send a reply back? So the loop is not complete. That's the first step that we miss in the communication process that stops us from connecting. If I send a message to a person and I know he's not going to reply to me, I wouldn't bother sending it again, would I? There's so many times we get emails and we're like, okay, they're sending us some kind of information, why should I reply to it? I mean, I don't have anything to say. But we can always say thank you, we can always send in an acknowledgement. That's just going to make the other person realize that I know this guy or this person is going to reply back to me. That's the first step of establishing that connection. What happened? Okay, now there is this concept of communicate and connect, which is called hail, and we all know the hail that falls from the sky. But there's another meaning of the word hail, which means to greet or acclaim enthusiastically. So when you do greet somebody enthusiastically, you make that connection. Now, think of a friend of yours, or just think, if you're looking for a friend, what is that one quality that you look for in that person?
Friendliness.
Sorry?
Friendliness.
Friendliness. A value. Can anyone tell me a value that they're looking for in a friend? Yeah.
Sincerity.
Very good. Sincerity. Anything else?
Honesty.
Honesty. So no matter how advanced we get, how modern we get, it's always those core values we look in people that we want to be friends with. And who do we connect with actually when we're communicating? Our friends. People we've known for years. So this hail basically stands, the H is for honesty. Be honest in your communications. Don't hold back, don't be evasive. Be honest. Be authentic. Be yourself. So many times we meet people like, oh, I don't believe the way she was acting. Was she natural? Was she fake? Our mind is constantly processing when we're seeing people. Are they really who they are? Do they really seem to be that authentic? If they are authentic, we instantly make that connection. Integrity. Be your word. You've said something, follow through with it. You've said, I'll call you back tomorrow, call back tomorrow. I'll get back to you later, do get back later. That's one of the very basic things that's going to make people that connection. Now love. Not a romantic love, it means goodwill. It's establishing that goodwill, actually deep inside your heart, feeling right, feeling empathetic, feeling good to that person. Now before we go on, let's get back to that honesty. Now honesty, when I say honesty, I don't mean, oh, you look horrendous today. What are you wearing, man? No, not that honesty. And let me tell you, I was that honest. So there was this narrative counseling workshop that I had to go and attend, and they sent me an email saying, describe yourself in 3 words. So I sent out a text message to 3 of my friends, really old friends, and I told my husband to give me 3 words to describe myself. 2 words came from every single person. Brutally honest and passionate. So that day I was like, oh my God, I don't need to be brutally honest because I am very honest. So I wouldn't think twice before telling you something. And that day I realized if I have that love deep inside, because I can't fake it. I can't tell you you're looking amazing if you're not looking amazing. But if I have that goodwill inside of me, thinking that it's going to hurt you, and if I say it the right way, oh, you look amazing every day, maybe next time, this color really suits you, but I think red looks better on you. He's still being honest, but because of you, you have that in you, that goodwill, that love for that person, that empathy. It comes out authentic. Now, these are some of the steps in which we could communicate and connect. Now, what's the next thing? Rapport. What is rapport? Could anyone tell me what rapport is? Yeah.
Connection,
return, connection, or a relationship of complete responsiveness. When two people talk, they are completely and totally responsive to each other. Who do we do that with? Our friends. That way. So, in your mind, think of one person that you like. Can be a friend, can be somebody you would like to be. Have you all thought about it? Now think of one quality that that person has. Would anyone like to volunteer? Yep.
Good listener.
Good listener. Anyone else?
Honesty.
Honesty. Okay. Would you say you are a good listener too? Yeah. Okay. Would you say you're honest too?
Yes.
So we build rapport. Oh, what's going on?
You have to do
Let me build some rapport with the remote.
All those R words.
There's no return on the communication.
One way.
Okay, so why I did that exercise of you telling me, think of one person you like, or think of one person you would like to be, and what quality they have, it made you realize that you have that same quality, right? So we build rapport with people, we like people who we would like to be, or who are like us. So people you already have rapport with are the people who have the qualities that you already have, or the ones you would like to have. So how do we do that with people who we meet on a daily basis? How do we? Yeah, so people like people who are like themselves, or who are like how they like to be. Do we meet people on a daily basis who are like us, or who we'd like to be? We do, but not most of the time. You're like, oh, they're not like us. How do we make that connection? It's not so difficult. I'll tell you, when I met Vera for the first time,
Oh, here we go.
we connected
Oh,
because
good.
she likes to stay fit like I like to. She goes to gym like I go to. So we found that connection in something. All right, we found that commonality. I was talking to, sorry, I forgot your name. Sorry, I was talking to Jonathan, and we were talking, and he said he's from UK, and I told him like how I studied in a British schooling system, and the words that I was using, I knew he understood when I said O levels. I knew he understood when I said A levels. I knew when I talked about the British education system, the words I was using, the jargon I was using. We connected because we found that commonality, that similarity between us. So to build that rapport, now how am I? Do I have to cut it?
No, you're right.
Let
You're good,
me know.
you're good.
Okay. So we build that rapport with that likeness. Now, imagine sitting at a bar. Notice any two people sitting together. What did they do? If one is shaking his hand, the other one's too. If one's sitting like that, the other one's sitting like that too. If one's moving his leg constantly, the other one's too. How? Because they've stayed together for such a long time. They've been together, they've been friends, that they have built rapport. They like each other. Go back to high school. One best friend you had. I had a best friend who I used to hang out with. For years I hung out with the same girl. And people would come up and say, are you sisters? You two look alike. And it happens. Even with boys. You start imitating each other's mannerisms. She would call my home, or if we're both outside, she could easily call my mom and get away with being me. Because she sounded like me. And we've all been through that. It happens. So we start mirroring each other once we start building that rapport. Now somebody we've met for the first time, how do we mirror them? Could you? Think of kids, how do we talk to kids? in our families. We talk in the same tone they talk to us. Once we do that, they start connecting with us. It's human psyche, it's just basic psychology. You know, you start imitating the way they act, you start jumping like them, they're going to love you. It's the same way it works with us. So there was a psychologist, Dr. Erickson. He was also a medical doctor and a hypnotherapist. He had polio. So he did a lot of research on building rapport and this particular fact that people like people who are like themselves. He would go sit around bars, restaurants, just observe people. And when somebody would come see him at his private practice, he couldn't even get up. But if a person would walk in and say, "Hey doc, I'm so depressed, you know, I really want somebody to solve this issue," he would go like this, "Hey man, I really think I can help you." You know, he would mirror the tone, the volume, and that guy would like, you know, "Oh, I really like this guy, he's not over the top." But think of somebody who's really loud. Would he like somebody to advise him who says, "Relax," you know? So the other day somebody would walk in and say, "Hey doc, I really have this issue, you know, I bet you could help me." You go, "Yay, you know, I really think I can do something for you." And the guy would be like, "Oh, he's great, look at that energy he has." So it's that mirroring, it's feeling what the other person's feeling, matching the tone. But do you think is it just the words or the tone?
No,
What else?
actions.
Actions. Because the words are only 7% of your communication. What about the rest of 93%? It's the style. It's the way you look. Sadly, it is that the style comes before substance. Because I see you first. I wouldn't listen to you unless I like you. Would I? So it's the way you dress up for an event. It's the way you go meet a person who you expect would be dressed in a certain way. So I have a friend who is a software engineer. She works for Salesforce. And we were talking the other day and she said, "You know, I have a compliance officer and she's so intimidating. But she wears black all the time. So whenever I have to go discuss an issue with her, I wear black." And it works. It works for her every single time. And it does. Because she is mirroring that compliance officer. She makes that connection and she gets through. And then she came up the other day and she said, "You know, you're always teaching about communication, building rapport. You know, sometimes I dress down when I go meet people. Because if I am at my best, they might not be able to connect with me." And I was like, "You're spot on. You know, I don't need to teach you anything. Because this is how it works." Okay, so it's a very long discussion if we keep on going into it, the many different processes of mirroring and building rapport and connecting with people. So we'll stop here and we'll talk about any questions if you have. No questions? Yeah.
The hardest thing can often to be established rapport with someone who does something that you actually feel very strongly about, but they're doing the opposite of what you feel strongly about. And so how do you move from disliking this person because they're wearing black and black means something to you? How do you move to establish that rapport? What techniques do you use?
Okay, see how we studied in the HALE concept, the love, the honesty, and authenticity. But a lot of times when we work with people, we talk to people at work or our colleagues, and we go back and, "You know, I don't like what she said to me. How many times do I go and tell that person nicely that I don't like the way you said it? You know, maybe if you could tone it down a bit, or maybe if you would have not said it so loudly that everybody heard what I did wrong. You know, let's sit down and talk and let's do it differently next time." Do we ever do that? No, because we miss out on that honesty. And if we do that honesty with the goodwill in us, it's going to work. Trust me. It's always worked for me. Because I never walk away. I never walk away from a situation. And then, again, if you feel strongly about something like she said, about the way a person's dressed up or anything, where is the empathy? Where is the goodwill? If we start believing that every person has his good and bad sides, that we have our good and bad sides, nobody is just bad or just good, we would work our way through it. You know, you won't end up hating anyone. Think of your best friend back in school. Was she everybody's best friend? Was he everybody's best friend? No. I'm sure somebody hated him, right? But he was your best friend because you knew his good and bad sides, because you had built that rapport with that person. So it's just how you work around it, following the very basic concepts of honesty and connection and goodwill and authenticity.
Just thinking before, at the start where you had the email coming back, and a lot of people not doing that, I think we're probably all noticing more and more that there's one-way communication in our businesses. It's, send an email to someone and there's absolutely no response. And I actually personally find it quite difficult to deal with, because I don't know whether it was in my upbringing or what it is, but I'll always say, yeah, got your email, or thanks, or whatever it is, just something brief to say, yes, I'll respond to you. But more and more we notice that doesn't happen. And I've just started seeing an email to someone now, and that's been going for 2 weeks with no response. And even recently, I sent her a response to where it shows that they've read it. So they've read the and we see that she's read the email, but she still hasn't responded. And you sort of, I don't quite get that. I know people are really busy, and I'm not sure whether this is a generational change to do with social media.
I wouldn't say it's a generational change.
I think having more and more.
I think they should talk about that communication diagram all the time. Yeah, why not? I mean, even when these guys send me an email, even if I'm not attending an event, I just say, okay, thank you, got it, not doing it. And there's always a yes and no at the end of the email. I mean, why not? It's just acknowledgement. I've sent an email to somebody, I don't know if she's read it. Or even if I do get the read receipt, maybe she just clicked on it, she never went ahead with it. Yeah.
I wonder whether some people just see that as a waste of time when they're really busy. I'm starting to feel that's what it is. There's no need for it. I think there's no need for this, because I'll respond when I have time. Even if it takes me 3 months, that's what will happen, because I don't have time to do anything.
No, but you can always say, thank you, I'm very busy at the moment, I'll get back to you in a week.
But another thing, as I said, that I would say that 5 out of 10 emails that I would send, there was no response to it. Maybe they say something about me.
It doesn't say anything about you.
Yeah.
Tell me where it is, I'll go and do this for them. That's what I know.
I just want to finish on something I thought was quite funny though, just before, is when you said about your friend dresses in black. I'm just wondering if that means that when I communicate with my wife, do I have to wear a dress the same colour as her?
The same colour. You already have rapport with her.
Least of all.
Same with the wife, you already have rapport with her. She's your wife. So you don't need to start building it now.
I guess my question builds on that one. That is, how do you mirror behaviour and still maintain authenticity? If you have someone that comes into a meeting with you and they're bouncing off the walls and you're a fairly quiet and spoken person, how do you connect with them and yet still be?
See, it's the mirroring usually is in the first meeting, and there are many different ways of mirroring. Okay? Mirroring can be through email. Okay, if he would have sent an email to me, I would have replied instantly, he would have liked me instantly. It's in behaviors and it's in attitudes. So I give you an example of a psychologist. Okay, that's his kind of mirroring. Now there's children, it's a different kind of mirroring altogether. It's in business or in a business meeting. Alright, anybody who walks in, you have a fair idea when they're walking in. Right? You know their history, you found out about them. Mostly we do before we. So we meet people, we try and find out what we should expect when they walk in, okay? So that kind of mirroring would be if he's coming from a business background, this person's going to be formally dressed. Try and dress formally. Because I've been in situations where I went for a business meeting and the person was in very casual attire. And I just walked in and I said, oh, do I really want to work with him? It's different for different situations. I'll give you an example. My son, 4-year-old, last year, he went for an educational psychologist assessment. He went for WIPSI 4, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. So I went and I had been talking to the psychologist over the phone, and he sounded so mature. And when I walked in, because there's this guy with long hair and shorts and a pink t-shirt walking in. And for a second I was like, oh my God, that's the guy who's going to assess my son and tell me in 45 minutes whether he has a high IQ or not. But my little one, he just ran up to him and he said, oh, you're wearing the same shorts I am. I love your shorts. He felt that connection with the psychologist instantly. And that's the second that I realized he's coming for him, not for me. You see, he has to put that connection with the kid, not with me. So it's, it's with, like I said, the style comes first and substance later. So you start from those little bits. You would still have your individuality. The way you dress up would still be you. There's too many ways to dress formally, but you would dress formally the way you're comfortable in, but you'd yet be formal. I hope I've answered your question.
Obviously, in that situation, I've had clients before that think, larger than life, and that's not, generally my style. But what I would do is, if they were really positive about their business idea or whatever it is, I'd just emulate that positivity in my language, as opposed to actually being, all over the shop. Yeah. So I guess would that be the different ways of? That's another way of mirroring. Yeah. And like we've always been hearing, it's always been said that people like people who are happy and optimistic. It's the why you get it. So nobody wants to be the person who's sad and sulky and gloomy all the time.
Unless they're sad and sulky and gloomy all the time.
No, even that one wouldn't go into person, but the happiness doesn't have to be over the top with a very sad and gloomy person. It's just a light smile, not laughing at the top of your voice, because laughing at the top of your voice is going to push that sad person away. So tone it down a bit to mirror that behavior a little bit, but don't lose your optimism and your happiness.
I find you just end up listening to those sort of people.
Yeah.
Sit there and smile and look at them until they shut up or something.
Aisha, that was extremely insightful. I think it's pretty safe to say that we've all picked something up from that. How would people go about, if they're interested in building more rapport with you or maybe asking for some advice, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, you guys have my
Yeah.
I'll do a follow-up email after today.
You guys can contact them, and if when we're leaving, we're done. I have my card. You can always consult with me. I do one-on-one counseling sessions also, and I do this kind of thing for businesses too. So I used to work at Siemens as a university liaison officer. So I used to work with their HR. I used to do their in-house counseling for them. So that's also what I do. One-on-one is also what I do. So if you need to get in touch, you can contact these guys or ask me. I'll give you my card. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you.
And next up, I'd like to invite Edwina back up. If you'd like to grace us with your presence, Edwina's going to talk to us about how to develop a business from the not-for-profit sector.
Sort of.
Kind of.
So we did have a range of discussions about what we might talk about, and I just wanted to really, I guess not a teaching session from my perspective, obviously being my first session. I'd really like to learn more about the people that come and what your aspirations are for coming here. So as I said before, I work for Regional Development Australia. Our purpose is to grow and develop economic opportunities in the region, including social and environmental factors in that. So we're really, I think we're quite a niche area of economic development in the region, targeting gaps and opportunities to increase our diversity in opportunities. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to thank Aisha. It was a really interesting tips about creating connectivity. And now that we have this opportunity with connection, I wanted to talk about how we can use those opportunities for connection to further the range of business models across the region. So the first thing that I wanted to do today was have a show of hands about who works in a competitive business.
Don't we all?
Well, that's a really interesting question. So can we keep our hands up? So there are, in fact, a number of people who don't work in a competitive business. Can I ask the people who don't work in a competitive business if you're in a co-op, a collaborative, or a collective? Okay, so we have one person in the room, which is really great, and Penny, as I saw Penny come in, I knew that I'd rely on Penny anyway for some rapport and feedback. Penny and I are both counsellors of many years, and I've looked up to Penny for the better part of 20 years, so thanks for that. So what I wanted to talk about is using some of the not-for-profit sector models to encourage business models across our region that invite more opportunities. I think Ayesha really, towards the end of that conversation, we particularly focused on how the business world, the competitive business world now is really geared for extroverts and optimists. You know, it's only 50% of us. It's, you know, it's not, the competitive business world isn't really providing a great platform for all those people who might be more inclined to speak quietly, more inclined to work behind the scenes. You know, people are finding roles and things like that, but you know, what I'm interested in is in our region, I think we have a lot of businesses that can look at different models, or even just taking lessons from different models, like cooperatives, collectives and collaboratives, that will add diversity in their business and give them that competitive edge over other businesses who aren't operating in that space. So when I think about this, so my background, I worked as a mental health clinician and manager in health services for 15 years. Then I had the absolute luck and joy to find myself as a land care facilitator across the region. And I worked for 8 years developing agribusiness, the agribusiness sector, to be more responsive to environmental outcomes across the region. And for the last 6 months, I've transferred that agribusiness development into generalised economic, social and environmental development across the region. I'm on a huge learning curve, and I'd just be delighted to meet with anybody after or at any time who wants to share something with me that will help me do that better. So my card's here, and also I will be back in our office at Swift Street shortly, so I would love to hear from people after today. What I noticed in my land care job was that the government was really investing in startups, and last year, or over the last 2 years, they invested billions of dollars in farming together. It was a national operation to mobilise and develop agricultural cooperatives all around Australia, and it's a massive investment. So I noticed this trend from the federal government to invest in cooperatives. That made me think, what does that mean? What I really noticed was it was mostly young people, or people who identified as startups or entrepreneurs, that were engaging in these cooperatives, which didn't really fit with my. Can anyone think of a commercial cooperative? What comes to mind when you think of commercial cooperatives? Yeah, absolutely. So my experience was with the dairy industry, and those cooperatives are. There's also water cooperatives that those cooperatives are extremely conservative, and we've seen some massive changes in that industry because of the conservatism, related to their cooperative business models. So what this is looking at is quite, I guess, a new cooperative model. What they're aiming for is really adaptive, flexible cooperative models that have, I think of them more in terms of collective, collectives rather than boards running traditional cooperatives. So although I recognise that there are a number of traditional cooperatives, we've got Riverina Co-op in Wagga, the farmers merchandising co-op. We've got a number of member-based co-ops like that provide very conservative long-term returns on investment for their members. But this was much more about an agile business space, about targeting new market industries, that sort of thing. And I thought that the not-for-profit sector has actually been working in cooperatives, in franchise type models that are more collaborative, more cooperative, and that there are lessons from that not-for-profit sector. So some of the things that I think come out is the principles of a cooperative, that there's open membership, there's a democratic control. So older style cooperatives tended to have that democratic control into a specific elected few, but the modern model, or the contemporary model that the government's been supporting, has been more generalist than that. The distribution of surplus is in proportion to the amount of trade, so I won't go into that, but it's obviously something that a lot of businesses are also applying. Payments are limited to the interest on capital. Political and religious neutrality, which which is a really interesting thing, I think, for businesses to think about. A lot of small and family businesses across the region, I find, don't have political and religious neutrality, that they're actually targeted at a niche market, and is this an opportunity for them to grow their businesses? Cash trading and also promotion of education. Collectives are where I see the opportunities for, so a collective is when a group of people decide on some common values that they will get together for learning and interactive learning. So not traditionally business, in the business space. Businesses in competitive environments don't often think, I'll get together with my competitor and exchange information for both of us to learn better. But what we can find is that within certain sectors and with like the common values that Aisha's really identified, why we like other people, that those businesses who do like each other, who find common value and interest, may have an opportunity to actually form collectives, to form interactive learning opportunities that would give them a competitive edge over all the other businesses in their sector that are outside their group. So that's an area that I think collectives also instantly give you an exponential growth in the number of people that you can communicate with, the networks that you're tapping into. So when you form a collective, you're sharing all the connections and networks that everybody else in that has, which gives you a huge opportunity for influence, for market gain, and for impact generally for your business. So that's a community development model from the not-for-profit sector that I think has a whole lot of learnings that we might be able to explore and apply in the region. I think that collaboratives, I don't know so much about collaboratives, and the research that I've done, and the best examples that I could think of, and I think the design industry, the creative industry is where we might see some of these examples, but the music industry, so collaboratives in music and actors and things like that have exponentially grown enormously in the last 20 years and really had massive growth returns for the people who are collaborating versus the people who are doing things alone. I think we're probably not the audience for it, but I particularly see the American rap industry has contributed, so it may not be the most popular demographic, the most popular style of music, but there are rappers in nearly every song that my kids put on our music database. There's collaborations with rappers, so the rap industry is in fact infiltrating and gaining that influence in the market through collaborating with the more stereotypically traditionally popular areas. All these ideas for me have really come from my social work fan crush, so I'm a social worker. My fan crush is on a woman called Brené Brown. She's an American, and I think the reason I instantly related to her is she's this amazing TED talk that's been viewed about a gazillion times. And so the social work industry, I was the only person from the country out of 60 social workers at the University of New South Wales in my 6 years. The only country person. There was one other guy who was from Tamworth in town, but really he was just in Sydney because he was gay and he had an incredibly hard time in town in Tamworth and he wanted to escape. So he didn't really fit my, he said, I'm not a country person. So I was the only person in that environment that then, came back to a regional area. Brené Brown said, how difficult it was for her as a social work researcher, and she said it's really hard to align these values when your family motto is lock and load. So she's a Texan, she says she's 4th generation Texan, and I went, that's how I relate to this, that my world of social work is very politically correct, highly politicised, but the people that I relate to and work with every day are much more direct. I find, rural and regional people, that the connections that they make are in this same sphere of influence and world that we're generally seeing researched, and that I really identify. Brené Brown talks about connectedness, and so it's taking that connection the next step and really focusing on the quality of our relationships. And I think rural and regional people have this amazing tenacity for high levels of connectedness, and nobody's really measured that yet in comparison, but I would lay London to a brick that rural and regional people nail this attribute, and that this is an opportunity for us to apply that in our business areas and go forward from there. Those are my thoughts, and I hope that it's a stimulating idea that people would be able to come and explore with us at RDA and in the Chamber over the coming months.
Did anybody have any questions for Edwina? Yep, Alex.
Do you think that the Chambers of Commerce is a collective or a cooperative? Because when you were talking about the models, I was thinking we're really a group of disparate people who come together for the positivity, for those connections, for shared and individual benefit. So would that be cooperative or?
I think it has elements of all, and that's really what I was, I don't think that one, fitting anything that we do into one particular model would serve us, as well as identifying the Chamber definitely has that element of collectives around the purpose being interaction and learning. So I would definitely say it can identify as a collective. Cooperative, I think it also has that element of people identifying the common goals and things like that. So it would fit into both for sure. Yeah.
Collaborative.
A collaborative. Well, it's not a collaborative. I imagine ideas have come out over the years.
Not so much a question, more of a plug for Albury CBD, which is basically part of Albury Chamber, acts as, I guess, a vehicle for businesses to collaborate. So what you're talking about with the collaboration, the small businesses to connect into that broader networks to increase their reach, and that's why I guess that exists, is that spirit of collaboration. So I guess any businesses that are connected with the Chamber that operate within the CBD, I encourage them to check out Albury CBD for that spirit of collaboration and network reach.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we've identified that the members are starting to want, so I think the timing is perfect for you to have this conversation today. I know recently we launched the Regional Consultants Group, which is probably more of a collaborative in that sense, where they're a bunch of consultants that can actually pitch for business together to increase their buying power, to win jobs, bigger jobs, and keep the money local as well, which is really positive.
So I'd hate to try and define that into one, or and this is, I think it's going to be a really exciting space to think about how you collaborate for competitive advantage. And I, particularly notice, I'm so interested to talk to some of the agencies that really look at those, at the, I guess, the core business drivers to look at where are the opportunities to expand and introduce new ways of working that give competitive advantage.
Well, definitely, we'll connect you with the members any which way we can. Vera will send out your details to everyone who's attended today and those that weren't able to make it as well. But thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it very much. Next on the list, lucky door prize.
Does anyone need to put their business card in?
Who forgot?
That's only a trip to the Maldives or something. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just wanted to give a little bit of a teaser to, won't explain exactly what's going on, but with the girls and the guys at Rooftop Media there, so Lightning IP with our technical knowledge and then with their creative knowledge, we're working on a little product that we're going to launch together, so keep your eye out on that. We're going to put some stuff in the shout out and have some videos released. Launching 1st of April, and exciting to see, especially with the talk about collaborating, what can come of that for most of our businesses and for the area.
Well done, Gav.
Thank you.
We love having members working together.
We do. It makes us tick.
Edwina, how about you draw the lucky? Now, a $25 office choice voucher thanks to Peter Barlow. And Brian Miller.
And Vera, you
And I
want
was
to
going to
do
do
an
an
update?
Yeah, I'm just doing an event update. So the event we've got coming up is on the 25th of March, Monday the 25th of March. Project Management have their event here in ChamberHUB. The topic is ethics and what do they mean for us. Guest speaker is Councillor David Burley from Albury City. The BC Business Advice have a 3-series digital marketing event. So the first one's on the 21st of March. These are all on the website, by the way. And that's for those who are beginners to digital marketing. The second one is the next steps for business growth. And then the third one is for a bit more experienced digital marketers, skilled for success. And they're $25 each. The next business after hours is hosted by Business Wodonga in conjunction with some Wodonga businesses on Wednesday the 27th of March. Business Women Albury Wodonga have their next networking event on the 4th of April at the Clubhouse over in Wodonga. And BC Business Advice also have an event here in Chamber for single touch payroll, which is compulsory from 1st of July. And the guest presenter for that is Margie from RSM. And that event's free. And that's it so far, so feel free to have a look at our website and they just get updated as time goes on as well. And yeah, that's
So,
do you have anything else, Kat?
Before we go, as much fun as we've had today, it's a bit of a sad moment for us as well. Vera's going to be leaving us in a week. It is her last business before ours. Vera's been with us for 4 years. She's come on a pretty incredible journey, and she's played a very, very integral role with the team at Chamber. You mean a lot to us, and I'm probably getting a little bit emotional here because I do, or we all appreciate everything that you've done for Chamber. It's not an easy thing to work at Chamber and to deliver the level and the standard that we do. So thank you, Vera. And if you guys haven't had a chance yet, give her a high five on the way out. She will actually continue to be just down the road. She'll be subleasing an office down the road from us, so she won't be going too far for the next few months, but thank you, Vera.